50 software that you're very accustomed to seeing, right?
Right.
And this is the handheld software, and I have to use a little emulation program so that you guys can see it, because you can't look through my computer and see the handheld. So we started this product about 3 or 4 years ago, not very long. So, and we're trying to finish getting it developed, and I think we've got it actually pretty stinking close to Sage 50 and what you can do inside Sage 50. So what I did for today, I actually went in and I created a couple of, we'll start with accounts payable purchase orders. Okay. But I created a couple of purchase orders, and not very many of them, because I wanted you to be able to see what we had. So there's maybe 6 open purchase orders at this point in time.
Yep.
And then if I log in over, and I'm using a little demo company called Bellwether. If I log in over at Bellwether, I can then go and see my vendors, and we'll take this Daniel Lawn Pro, and if we go down to the bottom of my open purchase order report, you'll see that Daniel, I think, only has 2 open purchase orders, 15 and 16.
Okay.
And I'm going to actually report transactions and let them come across so you guys can see that happen. So I can either look up my purchase orders on the handheld by the vendor or by the PO, and you can, you know, use these little lookup windows, or you could actually key the numbers or the names in if you wanted to on the handheld. There's a little numerical keypad. And then I select my purchase order, and then it populates with whatever your current system date is. So because Sage 50 doesn't give me the ability to do a direct write into the Sage 50 software, you know, your Sage 50 currently runs on your server, correct?
Correct.
So we have a little utility that runs on the server as well, and it transfers the data back and forth between Sage 50 and the handheld.
Okay.
So we've programmed this so that on the handheld, you constantly only see open orders. So if it's been fully shipped or fully received, then it comes on the available list on your handheld.
Okay.
So this item, and we're going to go take a look at this in a second. This is one of my serialized items, because I know that was something that was important to you guys.
Yeah.
And this is a purchase order that has multiple line items on it. Let me see if it'll let me go ahead and swap here. Oh, it's got to be running its little update. So the update runs on the server. And I don't have this installed on a server right now. I've just got it installed on a single laptop. So because of that, sometimes it's a little bit slow to respond to me when it's running its little update utility.
Yeah.
So the second one to Daniel is this guy. And you can put the same number of line items on a purchase order. They come across to the handheld just like you would have them inside Sage 50. And we've listed the item ID, the quantity that we want to receive, how many are currently open on the purchase order, and then how many have previously been received, units of measure, and then there's a description field, and it tells me whether it's a serial number or not, and then the line item of the item itself on the purchase order. So if you had 10 line items, you'd have 1 through 10 over on this far screen. So once you get ready to receive the purchase order, well, let me go ahead and get out of here, and let's go key one in so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to leave that closed and close that. All right. So inside then Sage 50, and I'm just going to pick this ABNY, and I'm going to record items. Go ahead. To ABNY, and now my little update utility is actually starting, guys, so you'll see my system slow down at this point, but this normally runs on the server, so you won't see this on the workstation.
Okay.
And it takes just a little bit of time for it to transfer, and then once it transfers, I'll get control of my laptop back because I'm running everything on a single workstation.
Okay.
And we have this currently set up. It polls about every 3 to 5 minutes. and takes whatever new transactions that you've keyed into Sage 50, double checks to make sure it's either an open sales order or an open purchase order. And if it is, then it gets transferred over to the handheld. It also checks the open purchase orders and open sales orders to see what's been received. And if they're fully received, then they're no longer available on the handheld because it closes them and removes them from even being able to be accessed on the handheld. So this should be.
Jennifer, while we're waiting for this update, so specifically to a sales order, if I wanted to scan, like I'm adding items to a box, and I want to scan into a sales order to make sure that everything I'm adding to this box is part of that sales order. But if I scan something that doesn't belong to that sales order, and we're only updating the server every 5 minutes or so, would it tell me that that's not part of the sales order, or would I have to wait for 5 minutes to go by before it would tell me that that doesn't belong in that sales order?
You can only receive things to the sales order on the handheld if they were a part of the sales order on your desktop system.
So it already knows what's a part of that sales order or that purchase order as you're.
Yeah, and yep, and I'll show you that once this finishes and I can get back over in the system. Okay. So we recently added the ability to scan your serial numbers on the receipt side. And then the sales side works just like it does in Sage 50. It's going to come up and say, here's a list of the serialized items that haven't been sold to somebody else, and you can actually select them for a sales invoice. We've gotten the ability to scan the serial numbers on the purchase orders, but we've not gotten yet the ability to scan the serial numbers on the sales orders.
Okay. And so that was one of the things that the owner wanted to make sure of, that as things are going out the door, we're scanning the serial number so we have a record of when this actually went out so we can determine what's still in and out of warranty, right? So
yeah,
so
exactly.
Go ahead.
No, that's exactly right. And again, do you guys use serialized items in Sage 50 now?
Yeah. No, we don't.
Okay, well, I'll show you exactly how it works on the handheld. So all right, now I've got my computer back. Oh my gosh. So I'm just going to go ahead and save the Abney. And then I set up also this item called a tractor, and this tractor happens to be my serialized item that I want to show you guys. So I just added 2 purchase orders to Abney. And if we go back over to the handheld and we go into purchase orders, because I know this thing is going to take a couple of minutes to transfer that over.
Yeah.
Then you'll see Abney's not even there as a list of an available purchase order because it hadn't transferred that new purchase order to the handheld yet.
Right.
All right, so let's give this a minute and let those transfer, because I want to show you guys now. We're going to go and put in a brand new sales order. And we'll put these into Aldred Builders. And again, I can put in, well, let's do this. Let's put in 3 of those tractors, because I know there's a boatload of them in there, because I was playing a little bit to get you guys ready for this. And then I'll go do another Aldred, and I'll put a couple of line items over here. And again, just like you're doing inside Sage 50, you can put 1 item on a purchase order or sales order, and you could put 25 if you wanted to. So on my sales order side of the house too, on my handheld, I don't have anything in there for Aldred. So my 2 A's will come across in just a minute. So while I'm waiting on that, so I went inside Sage 50, and you guys are you using stocked items now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So inside page 50, I've specified that my lawn tractor happens to be a serialized stock item.
Mm-hmm.
And I can, give it warranty and all the other pieces inside page 50 that I want to. So if you haven't set those up, then they would be something that you would have to set up. And then there's a file tab called serial numbers. Mm-hmm. And on this file tab, it then says, here are all the serial numbers that I've either bought or I've sold. And if I want, I can use this little view to show me things that I've either sold or that I've bought. And if you look down this list, I know my screen's kind of blinking at us a little bit here, but you'll see that serial number 1111 has been sold. So I can't use it on a sales invoice because it's not available. Yeah. However, serial number 1112 and 1113 are both available serial numbers for me to pick up on a sales invoice transaction.
Okay.
And then if I pick them up and include them on a sales invoice, then now I've got a record of who I sold it to, when I sold it to, and what the warranty period on these items are. Now the warranty period doesn't track over to the handheld because when we're managing the movement of the items itself, we really don't need that information on the handheld.
Okay.
Would you be
so go over and see if our, go ahead.
Would you be able to add those serial numbers from the handheld into the system though? So for instance, we do all our shipping out in the warehouse and our shipper would be saying which serial numbers are going to which customer. Can you program that from the handheld and have it transfer over to the system, not necessarily look up the data?
Yes, you can. And as soon as these transfer over, I'll show you what I'm talking about.
Okay, great.
No, this looks a little strange.
But you told me your screen was blinking because I thought I was having a seizure.
well, I'm just sharing that with you so that, yeah, we don't think that there's a real issue. So it still hadn't transferred over. It takes a few minutes.
Okay.
I like to tell, I've had people go, oh my God, your screen's shaking. Well, yeah, you're right, it is. The computer, it's, it's actually shaking.
Yeah.
And then over here, and I'm going to close that item down because we may want to go back into it. So most of the time I can set my clock and the stuff comes over, but not today. It's being a little slow. So we may have to wait another minute.
All right.
So, but we've got some clients, because we've written this type of an interface for a couple of other packages. And we've got one client that actually we interface to a document management software package, and he only wants the updates done one time at 2 o'clock in the morning. So we've programmed that little utility where it can pull an update every 5 minutes, or it can pull once a day. For the barcode stuff, I think it makes more sense to have it constantly on a poll, so that that stuff is readily available and we're not running back in the back of the office going, oh my God, my transactions aren't there.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So now you see we've got Abney and Son contractors. So I added 2 purchase orders for Abney and Son. I added 1 purchase order that had 4 or 5 line items, and I added 1 purchase order that was a serialized item. Mm-hmm. So I think this first one is the non-serialized item. So I can actually just click Receive All down here at the bottom, or I could actually click an individual line item, and I could go and receive just that one item, or go change what I'm receiving here on this screen. Right now I've got what's called an audit feature turned on, because sometimes there are clients that have, 30 items on a purchase order, and the little handheld is kind of small. So they want to go in and know which items weren't received on that purchase order, so they can check easily without having to go scroll down through, the individual line items. Right. If you have notes that you need to put on this item, you know, something like the box was damaged, but the items looked okay. Then that transfers over as a note on these purchase order, just like you were keying it into Sage 50. If you guys track receiver numbers, and we have some people that do, you can actually put a receiver number into the receiver number field. The way the system works is it tags all of these transactions waiting on a bill from the vendor so that they can't be paid, again, just as though you were keying them inside Sage 50.
Okay.
So this is the purchase order that we added that has the tractor, and the tractor is a serialized item. And right now you can't receive from this little window, but they're adding another little column where you can, but you have to go into the individual line items, you have to go to the quantity received, and then you get a prompt for all the serial numbers that you're receiving. Now this little handheld I'm using is kind of quiet, but you can actually scan. Did you guys see that?
Yeah. Yep.
I can actually take this scanner, and I'll try another one. Sometimes yeah, there you go. And I'm not going to save these because I'm going to go put something in differently. So if my serial numbers were 6001, and I had 3 of them and they were consecutive, and I knew that, I can add them individually, or I can have the system auto assign those serial numbers, or I could scan them.
Yep.
Okay, so that's got the purchase orders both received. Do you guys kind of understand that?
Yeah.
Oops. Okay, hang on, I didn't do my little audit, and it told me I didn't go check and make sure it was all hunky-dory. Okay. So then we added 2 sales orders, and we happen to have 2 companies that can use this same handheld. So now we're going to go to sales orders. And again, here's my client starting with an A, Aldred Builders. And here's my first sales order. All right, I think it might be running its little update on me here. Not quite sure what's going on. All right, let's try this again. What I did. If there were a PO on the sales order, that would come up. This screen is grayed out so that there are some things we don't want them to change on the handheld, but we might want them to be able to see it. If you have a special note about how you shipped this particular piece of equipment to somebody, what the ship date was, and if the people back in the warehouse know that the shipping charge is $25, then they can add it back on this receive transaction or ship transaction without having to write it down on a piece of paper and have somebody in the front warehouse come up and tell it. It also will show them the bill to and the ship to information in case you have customers with multiple ship to information.
Yep.
If you have notes, you can bring them across just as though you were keying them inside the Sage 50. And now I can go look at my items. So this happens to be the serialized tractor items. And when I go to ship this, I'm going to go in and tell it I'm shipping 3. It's going to come up and say, here are all of your available serial numbers that you can ship. And this is the part we don't have this where it can scan yet. That's kind of like next on the list. Yep. But there's 113, there's the 112, and then I could just take this 2505. And then if I scroll down, you know, I may not see it right now, but at some point I would see that 60001, 60002, and 60003 we had received on the purchase order.
Right.
Or I could search for serial number if I wanted to. And this is what we're thinking. We'll be able to scan in this field, and it'll go down and find it and automatically click that little ship button.
Yeah.
We just haven't quite gotten that far yet.
Okay.
I'm going to run my little audit. It's all clean, and I'm going to save. And then I think there was a second purchase order from these guys. And again, I can populate.
Your audit will tell you if there's an error in it?
It'll tell you if you've got a line item that you didn't ship.
Okay, got it. So but if you don't run the audit, theoretically you could ship the wrong stuff. But if you run the audit, it's going to tell you you've packed the wrong stuff.
No, nothing's going to tell you that you've packed the wrong stuff.
Okay.
You know, it's just, but again, if they want to take a look on the handheld, there's a description field here, and this field could be made wider so that they could take a look at not only the part number, but the description of the item and make sure that they're shipping the right product.
Okay.
So what does the audit do exactly? What's the running the audit?
The audit tells you, let's say you had 20 line items on a purchase order.
Mm-hmm.
It would tell you the items that you did not include in the shipping transaction.
Okay.
So then we got to, you know, wait a few minutes, but we should be able to then go over and look at our open purchase orders. And here that the ABNYs that haven't come across yet, so they'll update in the next couple of minutes. Yeah, it's starting to update now. Yep, there goes our little update. And again, these transactions come back into Sage 50 just like you had been sitting at a desktop and keyed them into Sage 50.
Right, right.
And it typically takes, I don't know, maybe a minute or two for this update to process. It depends on how many transactions you've got that's passing back and forth.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
How many shipments do you guys do on a daily basis?
Probably about 20 to 25. Most of them are, you know, the serialized shipments, there's probably 10. And then we do like our RMA service lines. So those ones wouldn't be serialized, but we do about 20 to 25 shipments.
How many users do you guys have on Sage 50?
I believe 5, maybe 6.
So tell me a little bit about what you guys do.
So we make, the company started building controllers for saltwater tanks. So people don't have to be around their tanks. The controller will actually control what goes on with their tanks. And it'll send them an alert when something's going wrong with their tank, like if pH is going down or there's a leak on the floor or what, you know, whatever the issue is, it'll notify them via like a text message. It'll give them an alert, or they can log in and see the parameters of their tank. So it started by just building controllers, and from there it kind of branched out into all things for saltwater tanks. So now we build like dosers and all kinds of equipment for people to keep saltwater tanks.
Got it. Okay, so here's our purchase order that we received on the handheld. Remember, this is one of the 2 to Abney, and we actually received 3 serialized items. So if I come into the, oh, I'm in the wrong place. My bad. I forget.
It's a little late in the day anyway, Jennifer, we understand.
You know what? I've been at this all day, too. So I'm thinking this might be it. We're going to go find out. All right, so here's one of the ones we received, and you'll see we ordered 5, we received 5, and so now it's tagged waiting on a bill.
Yep.
And here's one where we shipped 5 tractors, and there's a serial number button up here. Yep. It's telling me gotta select the line number, and then it'll show you the serial numbers that shipped or that received on that particular purchase order number.
Okay.
Let me go find what we just did. So I'm thinking it might be this one. Nope, that's not it. Yeah, or this one. Nope, that's not it. Let me see if it's this one. Yep, there it is. Gosh darn it, you know, if I just hold my mouth right. So anyway, this is where you come and you see the serial numbers that get received on a particular purchase order. And what we should now see, if we go back over to the handheld and we go back into Bellwether Garden Supply, you see Abney's now gone because those purchase orders were both received in full.
Right.
Let me go see, because I want to find, because I think on the, let me see, maybe it was the other one. Okay, so let's go take a look at the sales orders. So same thing with the sales orders. Once we've shipped them, I have to go into a different little screen. And just like in Sage 50, you'll see the ones that were received because the invoice number is blank. Mm-hmm. So then you have to come into Sage 50, and you can either print them one at a time through this window and just hit print, and it'll assign it that next invoice number, or you can actually go in through the reports section, and it will actually let you print them all kind of in a batch. So same kind of a thing. Here's my sales invoice. This is the sales order that it was shipped off. And then there's a little button up here that says serial number. And then down here you'll see the serial numbers that were shipped on this particular outbound transaction.
Okay.
So that makes sense?
Yep, yeah, that makes sense.
So the transactions again on the handheld happen exactly like the transactions happened on if you were recording them inside Sage 50